Hey, everybody. I hope this finds you well and continuing to enjoy this journey. It's been about a week since I jumped into your inbox, but I've definitely been thinking of all of you and just sending good vibes that everything is really working well for you and that you're feeling good. And that despite any of life's unscheduled events that come up, you've been able to stay the course the way that you have elected to when you signed up and when you sort of gave me your intention for the program as a whole. So you're almost through the elimination phase. You have just this weekend to go. So don't throw in the towel. Stay strong, and then we'll reconnect on Monday night on Zoom again at 6 p.m. So I look forward to talking to you in real time that night and hearing about your experiences, and then talking you through where we go next for the second half of the program. So today I wanted to jump in and encourage you to take advantage of, some lifestyle strategies, either over the weekend and of course just in general. And, a lot of this, like so much, it's not, rocket science. It's not new worldly information by any stretch of the imagination, but friendly reminders and friendly invitations to maybe give up something that's not serving you to allow more space for something that is very life giving to you. Okay. I know everybody leads busy lifestyles and busy schedules. And it might feel difficult to, fit one more thing in. But the key is to give up something that doesn't service. So I have a bunch of different things that I want to talk about, or just kind of, present to you, plant a seed, if you will. And some of them are discussed in the packet, starting on page 16 through, I think, 18. So yeah, and these are all things that complement everything that you're sort of working on through this nutrition program, but they complement everything that you're working on through any daily nutrition practice when you're trying to self-improve, just the way that you are with exercise. So of course exercise is one of those great lifestyle strategies that's like a form of medicine, if we choose to see it that way, just as working on our nutrition and just periodically over a sustained amount of time, trying to, get rid of those food products that don't serve us and are not good for our health. So what are some other things that are very life-giving and health improving that, you can read about absolutely anywhere, but they're proven over and over and over again to be beneficial for us in our health, and our mind, and just in general. So fresh air is one of them. And admittedly, in January, it's probably the month of the year where I spend the least amount of time outside, where I sort of really have to coach myself into getting out. Like I might go out, 2 or 3 times, depending on the conditions. If we have good snow and it's good for snowshoeing or cross-country skiing, then I'll get out more times than others. But this particular January, we really haven't had great snow conditions unless you're a downhill skier. And it's been quite cold and it's dark. So But when we do get out there, and I invite you to try and take yourself outside for some fresh air this weekend. I went out snowshoeing yesterday, so I'm not asking you to do something I wouldn't do myself, and it was only single degrees yesterday. It's very life-giving. It is so good for our respiratory system and our sinuses to just get out there and take it in. So do that. Get that fresh air. Take a walk, even if it's only for 10 minutes and it's around your yard or down your driveway to pick up the mail. Do what you can. Get somebody to go with you. Okay, so fresh air. Dry brushing, we haven't talked about in person yet, but I put it in the booklet. And dry brushing is great for the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is a great system of the body that helps with sort of cleansing and detoxification. And so the dry brushing is as it sounds. You brush your body with a dry brush. I put a picture of the brush in the packet. We're not talking a hairbrush, but a wooden handled brush with bristles. And you would do this before you shower. And you sort of brush up, 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 and on your torso, sort of more circular. And come up, the legs, and just kind of hitting all the areas. And it's just great to help with that detoxification. Also really helps improve circulation. So if you're somebody that struggles with the circulation in the winter or anytime and have, cold hands and whatnot, it's really a great thing. Journaling is great for so many things, but the form of journaling that I'm talking about right now is a form of data collection. All right. So, when you're changing your habits the way you have been, kind of keeping track of how you're feeling through that process is helpful. Journaling by season is a good way to keep track of how your body responds to the different seasons. Okay. So sinus issues can seem prevalent, in the fall or the winter, and maybe they're allergy related and maybe they're not. But keeping track of that, on paper can be really helpful because you never know when something might come up and that information might be useful medically, so keeping track of things of what's going on when you're feeling great and what's going on when you're not feeling so great, whether that's seasonally, whether that's with some transitions in life or stress in life. So having some kind of journal that you just maybe keep in your desk drawer that you're pulling out periodically. We know food logging is great, but we know we're not going to do that every day, all day for the rest of our life. But things like that can be good too. Like you're changing what you're eating now. So keeping notes about how that's making you feel. So you kind of have a really good understanding of that. So really journaling from a data collection standpoint, that might be something that you pull out in the future, whether it's a month from now or maybe even years from now, that might help point you to something in many ways. So rest and relaxation is another one. We live in such an on-demand society where more is seemingly more, and the more you do, the more places you go, the more stuff you have, that seems like, how you win at life, which really, in my opinion, is just the furthest thing from the truth. But when we take time to slow down and take time for ourselves to rest and just treat ourselves with respect in every way, shape, or form, then life is better. But when we sort of live in this really fast pace, like analytical and just, really being hard on ourselves, judgmental about ourselves, not doing enough and not being enough, that's when we're just moving further away from that level of satisfaction with our life. I have definitely found that less is more because you really start to learn how to appreciate what you have as less. And maybe when you focus on less, whether it's sort of whether it's physically speaking, like things, items, or lessening, your use of technology, or lessening the amount of screen time, whatever less feels like to you, it can end up being more. All right. I know a lot of people went on a big sort of decluttering thing at the beginning of the pandemic, because it was like, we have to stay home. So what can we do? Because we can't just sit home and do nothing, because that would mean that we would have to be with our thoughts and with our life. So we had to do something. So a lot of people decluttered their house and got rid of a lot of things. Well, that is awesome. And I certainly have done a lot of that in the last couple of years, and it feels like so much more, even though our home it's much less cluttered. And personally speaking, we were never cluttered to begin with. We don't have an overabundance of stuff, but now our home feels like more. And I don't know how to help people sort of understand that, but that's how I feel about that kind of situation. So, getting some rest and relaxation, scaling things back to be much more qualitative than quantitative can help us connect into ourselves. It can help all of the systems in our body come in to better balance when we can tame the frenzy of everything that the American life sort of deems as being the most relevant part of life to be successful with. So when we start subscribing to our own authenticity, that's when we get to real quality. And then finally, just continue to learn. Be a lifelong learner. Don't ever age yourself out of learning and trying something new, whether it's with your health and fitness, your nutrition, or a new skill or a new hobby. You're never too old. It's never too late. So those are just some things that I encourage you to think about now. All of those other things that you've heard me talk a lot about in the past and that we covered in last year's programs, other things like meditation are huge. Another thing that I would add into it now that I've just finished my 200-hour yoga training is breath work. A lot of breath work. And when it comes to like sinus issues and congestion, breathing is a huge part of that. But breath work is also great for stress management. Other things like affirmation and visualization, all of those things are very life-giving and grounding things that also help reaffirm things that we're working on, like our nutrition. And when the going gets tough, when we have things to lean into, like meditation, like affirmations, journaling for our quality of life, so we're just journaling our thoughts, those are very helpful tools to keep us grounded when our feet start to get lifted off the ground for whatever reason. Again, life circumstances, stressful instances, life transitions, and so on and so forth. So all of those things are just super important and definitely complement everything that we're doing with this nutrition. So it all intertwines with one another. And when we think about, well, I just can't possibly fit something else into my life, I invite you to have the thought of, well, what could I do without that's really not giving me life, where I can make more space for something that is going to give me life. So finish strong this weekend, and I look forward to seeing you Monday night at 6 p.m. on Zoom.